Well, here we are.
At home.
In our living rooms.
With our families.
With those we love.
Today, wherever you are located,
know that you are not alone.
You are not alone. We're still connected.
Today, we gather as one body.
One body.
One body.
Because the church is not a building.
It never has been.
It never has been.
We gather today as one church.
One church.
To lift up one name.
The name of Jesus.
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 So wherever you are,
today is the day the Lord has made.
Today is the day to give him thanks.
So let's unite.
Let's worship.
Let's praise his name.
for he is worthy of it, today
and every day.
Because we are still the church.
We are the church.
We are the church.
We are the church.
We are the church.
Happy Wednesday to everybody at the pier. Just wanted to say hi and tell you guys that we miss you and the Saucitos are doing great. And a few things that we love about the pier is the community and Pastor Jonathan. He always brings the great word every week. And we sure of course miss all of you and all of your faces every week. So we're looking forward to when we will be able to all get back together. But I'm excited to go ahead and lead you guys in worship tonight. So let's go ahead and get started. harvest, when favor and providence flow, and I know I'm filled to be emptied again. The seed I've received I will sow, and I will bring praise, I will bring praise. No weapon formed against me shall remain. I will rejoice, I will declare, God is my victory and He is here.
Hello, Pure Family. Wanted to let you know how much we love you and we miss you. And we miss seeing you face to face. So speaking of face to face, I want you to know that we are in the planning stages of trying to get a get together going so we can see your face and visit with you. Well, maybe see your face with the mask on, but so we can at least be face to face in person. Just make sure you're checking us out on Facebook and keeping in contact so you know when that will happen. If you haven't liked us on Facebook, please like us on Facebook, and you can also follow us on YouTube to follow the weekly videos that Pastor Jonathan puts together. They have sure been a blessing to me, and I hope they've been a blessing to you. I also want to talk about tithing. Please do not forget to tithe to the Pier. We are still doing ministry in many, many ways, and we need your support to continue the ministry that God has placed on all of our lives. We are continuing to do ministry here in our community and out in the world. You can drop a check by the church at 2000 Troy Avenue or mail it. You can text from your phone 84321, text the amount and also the Pier so you know that it comes to the Pier. And then you can also get on the Praises website at pueblopraise.org and hit tithes on there and make sure you put the Pier so we know that it's coming to our ministry with the Pier. We sure hope you are doing well. We love you. And please, again, drop us a line. Let us know how you're doing.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship Your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing Your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I'll worship Your holy name.
You're rich in love and You're slow to anger. Your name is great and Your heart is kind. For all Your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find.
time has come. Still my soul sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore, forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I worship your holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I worship your holy name. Lord, I worship your holy name. Lord, I worship your holy name.
Hey, Peer Family. What we're going to do today is take a ride with Pastor Jonathan. I'm going to pick him up, and we're going to take a slow drive to Colorado Springs and just kind of talk about ministry and about things we like and things that we find are easy and things that we find to be difficult. We're doing it in this format because there's something about driving on the road and just having a conversation that seems to open us up a bit. I know all of you know Jonathan and Jamie, but I was hoping to reveal a little bit more of them to you and allow you to hear a little bit more inside information and stories about them. I'm going to pick him up here at Sam's Club, and then we'll be on our way.
Extra gear just in case.
Just in case.
We decide to get funky.
Okay, so we're on our way to Springs. We're going to go eat at one of my favorite places, Culver's. Somehow Jonathan hasn't been there, but he has seen it. So hopefully he's in for a treat.
Here's the thing. I promise to be open-minded. However, if it's the Culver's I'm thinking of, I could throw a Frisbee and hit a mod pizza.
Oh.
And so I'm intrigued.
We're going to go to mod pizza. Let's go to Mod Pizza. Oh. It's not the one you're thinking of, but we'll just go to Mod Pizza because I like that place.
I mean, I'm open. Let's check out what Culver's is all about.
So, I wanted to have a conversation with just the two of us. I really liked the interview you had with Javier a couple weeks ago and with Pastor Lou Ward. And so, I really like that idea. And so, I wanted to have kind of a conversation because you and I have gone back a long time. Like 1997 or 98, something like that is when we met. And we'll have a conversation about sharing some relatives that we didn't know for a different time. But right now I just kind of wanted to ask you a few questions and just to kind of hear your ideas and your thoughts about a couple things.
Ah, cool.
So I asked my boys, Sears, who's 9, and Ben, who's 6, if they could ask you a question, what it would be.
Oh, nice.
And so Ben, my 6-year-old, wanted to know, do you like your house?
Ooh, That was Ben's question?
That was Ben's question.
Oh, good one, Ben. Yes. Yes, but I love our house. We have lived there now for 9-ish years. And so my boys have all grown up in that house, and so our old house on Morrison, which you and Gwen were heavily involved in, coming over for ping pong nights and lots of meals together. It was a wonderful house, but it doesn't have nearly as much memories. So I don't really miss that house much. But this house, all three boys, Eli moved in when we moved in, he was 2, and then the others that's the only house they've ever known. So when we first walked into our house, there's a fireplace and bookshelves, and I was already sold. I walked in, saw the living room, it was big. I was like, yes, I love it. And so we fixed it up all along the way and still have projects. So I love the house, but with those 3 boys growing and really so little yard space, we've now for the first time seriously thought of moving out. So, but yes, love my house, but my boys might be outgrowing it.
Okay. Sears' question. I had to edit his first question because it was
inappropriate.
No, it just cut too deep.
Oh,
Sears
just dove straight in.
We might have that question one-on-one, but it was a deep cut.
Oh, you'll have to tell me what the first one was later.
I'll tell you when we stop rolling. He wanted to know, what was it like having 13 dogs?
Oh, yes. Okay. So we had our first puppy, Sadie. Her very first litter cranks out 13 puppies. And before we gave them, sold them or gave them all away, before you and Glenn ended up with one of them and some other friends. So we had 13 at our house. And it was a lot. So one, super adorable, little Labrador Golden Retriever mix puppies, super cute. And so it was fun and precious and cute, and also one of the sources of Jamie and I's first few years of marriage, one of our worst fights.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes. So, the details of which I'll save, but Jamie and I could look back on it now and chuckle and talk through it, and it was a good learning point for us. Yeah. But those 13 puppies were one of our very first big significant fights. So
that's interesting. It's interesting what brings out I don't want to call it a teaching moment, but kind of.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that the dogs ultimately just become the catalyst for whatever conversation you guys then had.
Yeah.
And so it's not really their fault.
Yes, exactly.
And yet, without them, it's hey, I don't know if we would have got down to that one.
Yeah, it's funny. To this day, we'll celebrate 18 years of marriage this upcoming December. And so that was in the year, for the first 5 years easily. But and if you ask Jamie to tell us about the puppy fight, she'll know exactly what you're talking about.
Next time I see her soon, I'm going to ask her.
Yep.
Okay, so those are questions from my boys, and so they were kind of softballs to get us started.
Those are good ones.
Yeah. You've been in ministry for how long? And I mean, go back to not the beginning of paid ministry, but tell me some of your early ministry experiences.
Yeah. Gosh, so man, I think really one of my first ministry experiences. I grew up kind of going to being involved in youth ministry and doing stuff, but really as far as serving on the other side of ministry, I graduate high school. I go off to college, CU Boulder, Fighting Buffs. and join a Christian fraternity. Some wonderful guys, many of whom I'm still friends with today. And I think it was my second semester there, I was voted as chaplain. So I was chaplain of Christian fraternity, and that was kind of where I started being able to kind of serve and love people and try to care for others. And then from there, it's really been just about nonstop. So when I came back home for college, that's where somewhere along the way, but we touched base in there and got to know each other, going to youth camps and being counselors together.
Yeah. Dan Larson was our connecting point.
Yes. And I met Dan my senior year of high school. Sheesh. And so I think when I came back home from college, we went to some different camps together and were counselors, and then got involved in Passion, of course, and kind of serving. I was at this college worship service together, and then literally nonstop from there. So camp counselor, worship leader, youth pastor at Fellowship of the Rockies. When I was, so young and inexperienced, but was youth pastor at Fellowship of the Rockies, and then did Young Life leader, college Young Life. So really, I feel like, I've been doing ministry for a long time.
Tell me about some of the best times, some of the things that came easy to you.
Yeah, along the way in ministry?
Yeah.
I would say easily the relationship side of things. Whether it was trying to connect with high school kids when I was a youth pastor, or in other capacities, just the relationship side of things has always come the easiest and been the most natural and enjoyable for me. Trying to connect with people and get to know them and kind of walk through life together. So the relationship side of things has definitely been what comes most natural and what I enjoy the most along the way.
I want to ask you what's the least, but I want to kind of take off things like funerals and some of those darker parts for this part of the conversation.
Yeah.
What's difficult about ministry for you? Then and maybe now also.
Yeah. Honestly, I enjoy funerals. They're not actually the worst by far. Maybe I should rephrase that. I don't know if I enjoy funerals, but I actually don't mind funerals because I get to kind of walk through this hard moment, and hopefully be in a hopeful, encouraging kind of presence. Honestly, my first reaction is kind of like the administrative kind of things, parts of it, but that's not probably it, though. I don't love that stuff, but the hardest part is probably goes along with the relational side of things. The hardest part is really feeling like you're trying to invest in someone's life, right? It's not just like a professor where I'm standing up there lecturing and then you take notes or remember it or not. But where you ministry, you're really investing in people's lives and trying to love them and come alongside them and encourage them. And so those moments where you feel like you're really trying to invest in someone and then feeling kind of like cast aside in that. Of like you've really poured a lot into this relationship for someone else to be like, I'm gonna go to a different church, and it's not a church thing. It's like, hey, if you want to go to another church, that's fine. I'm really actually fine with that. But kind of feeling like you've really invested in someone and then feeling like they betray that trust or investment, or kind of it's easy for them to walk away, and that stings probably the most.
That actually leads into my next question. Well, is how do you find leaders And I think leaders are interesting because often we think a leader is someone who is just willing to show up all the time. But I think we've been involved with ministry and leaders long enough to know that not everyone is truly a leader, even if they're committed and even if they're dedicated to what's happening. Not everyone should be in charge of other people. And so how do you help leaders along? And how do you encourage those that maybe can grow? How do you help those with diminished skills build more of a gifting, or at least a strengthening towards those things? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense. Yeah, well, I think, so we've known each other and worked alongside each other and done ministry together long enough that you probably know, like, I really do try a couple things. One, to just make a difference, delineate between a leader and a helper. Hey man, no, is this something that you can lead, or is this something that you can help with? Because I think there's an important distinction between those two things. Because not everyone can lead everything, and even as a pastor, full time right now, like, there's things that I lead and there's things I don't have time or energy or to lead, and so I just help with those things. And so I try to help people and encourage them in that way of, man, what's something you can lead, what's something you can own and kind of shepherd other people in, and then what's something that maybe you can't lead that thing, but just help that thing. So that's kind of one important thing. And then secondly, circling back to my ministry history, like, I think partially why I've really kind of done ministry for so long is I really do feel like that the importance of, man, serving and serving in some way, serving and leading in some way. I can look back in my own life and see how people saw potential in me, and so even in small things, kind of put me in positions of responsibility to lead something, and the difference it made in my life. So I've always tried to give back in the same way, lead where I can, invite others alongside. So how do I was rambling for a while there. So how do I find leaders, or how do I help recruit leaders? Is that what your question was?
Yeah, how do you help leaders whenever you see a potential in them beyond their own ability to recognize their ability to lead or to help?
Yeah. Well, I think, you said a little bit of it right there is trying to always be open to seeing people's potential, and then inviting them along. Sometimes in church we have this perception and routines of just sitting and watching, and at best like participating, and there's not always opportunities, or maybe real visible opportunities, to lead and come alongside and really utilize the gifts God's given someone. They think, well, if I can't preach or I can't play an instrument, there's no opportunity for me to lead. And so I trying to help them see the potential of, man, God's gifted you in certain ways, and sometimes we stifle, or we kind of draw some boundaries of what that means, and trying to help people see, like, hey man, how's God gifted you? How can that grow in your life and benefit other people, and being open to where that might lead. So I think it starts with just trying to help people see that potential. Man, God's gifted all of us in certain ways, and man, how can you love somebody and help them grow in their faith with the way that God's gifted you? And sometimes that's tricky in churches, because we have like defined roles of usher, greeter, singer, piano player, and we want to fit people into those things, as opposed to, man, how's God gifted you? Man, let's let the sky be the limit of imagination of ways that could benefit the kingdom of God, So I think, one, seeing that potential. Two, giving people a chance. There's been times that has not gone well for me, but giving people a chance. you know, I can look back at my own life and oh man, thankfully we're old enough that some of my first few sermons, there's no way there's recordings of it. But I'm sure I would cringe if I heard that in some ways. Except I would smile and I'd say, hey, look at that guy. Look at that young guy trying his best, you know. So I think just trying to see the best in people and then give them a chance in some way. I've told this story somewhere before along the way, but Pastor Rick Wright was when I first gave my life to God and was becoming a Christian. He played the piano each Sunday before service and stuff, and he said, "You know what, son?" He said, "I need someone who can help me remember to put the piano cover on after service every single week." And I think you're that guy. You could help me put that. I was like, what? Like, I was blown away. Like, here's a pastor. He's inviting me to do to help serve this church. And so there were a few Sundays I forgot. And in fact, I eventually, on my Bible that I would take each week, I put a little note on the front of my Bible so I wouldn't forget. And so, in many ways, back to your question of, you know, how long I've been doing ministry, like, that's where I got started, right? Is him inviting me to put the cover on the piano, and he gave me a shot, and kind of grew from there.
I haven't heard that story before. That's a good story.
Yeah, he was a big influence on my life in a lot of ways. But just this giant of a man, smiling all the time, always loving, and invited me into his life and his family's life. In ways that probably shaped me more than I even know, and patterned for me ways that Jamie and I have invited people into our lives, as I probably first saw it and caught it from him.
So, one of the things that we've had conversations about is helping people along, and by that what I mean is there's a pastor that I really enjoy. And he talks about how we're trying to move people from A to B and then B to C. And sometimes in ministry or sometimes in church or sometimes with theology, we want people to move from A to Q. And one of the things that I have recognized with you through our many years of friendship is you do a really good job of allowing people to just move one step at a time. And one, thank you. Two, I feel like that has helped me to be a little bit more patient and a little bit more graceful with people. It doesn't always work, but it's what I want to be more true of me. How was that nurtured in you? Like, that's not something someone really tells you, because they can tell you. I've read it before, and I understood it, what the guy was saying when I had read his book. But then I see you do it. And not only do I see you do it, I actually see you do it to me and some of our friends that are really close. How is that? What cued you? What instructed you to be diligent about helping people move just a step at a time?
Yeah. One, thank you for saying that. That's really encouraging to me. Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about that before, but I would probably say a couple things. One, you know, I'm again talking about Pastor Rick Wright. I'm thankful that I've had plenty of those people in my life who just have modeled graciousness and love and empathy well for me, and so I feel like I've probably learned that from watching them. Yeah, and then too, I'd say, man, I think we tell people about God in funny ways sometimes, right? And people people are introduced into the Christian faith in ways I think that are helpful at times and unhelpful at times. You and I have had some conversations before, and I think when people are brought in using more fear kind of based methods of hey, come to Jesus or else, that can really kind of shape your faith in some ways, very profound ways. And for me, I think I really was introduced and kind of fostered into the grace of God. It's the thing that's always stood out to me about Jesus. The first Bible verse I ever heard, not ever heard, because I'm sure that was John 3:16, but ever memorized, was Romans 5:8. And it says that God demonstrated his love for us in this way, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And that really stuck out to me, of like that before I deserved it in some way, before I even cared, before just this grace of God that like, hey, no, Jesus did this beautiful thing for you before you even knew it, and it's this gift for you. And I see Jesus walking with the disciples, and they crack me up so many times, like, and because I see myself in them of just missing it, James and John, with the Samaritan village, they're like, hey, Jesus, do you want us to call fire down from heaven and destroy them? Like, can you even imagine, like, asking Jesus that? And so I just see them not getting it so much. And I know that that's been me and still is me in so many ways. Like, I don't get it. And yet Jesus just walks with them, and he keeps trying to help them. And you can see sometimes more than others, he's frustrated with them, but he still just keeps walking with them. And so that idea of, from this step to the next, like point A to point B and then C, like he just keeps walking with them. He starts off with an invitation of just like, hey, come and follow me. It doesn't tell him anything about the cross. It doesn't tell him anything about anything really. Then, hey, just come and follow me, and then just keep following me step by step. And so that's meant a lot to me, and so I try to just live that out, I think, with other people. Hey, let's keep walking this life together, one step at a time, closer to God.
I think that's an interesting idea, that we take on different versions of how we think God is. I know we'd like to think that everyone thinks God is the same way, but if we grew up in some situation where there was a domineering personality, it feels like God kind of takes on that personality. Or if we are raised with a very gracious and loving Jesus, who doesn't have a lot of the or else. It seems to make a different, I wouldn't say a different kind of Christian out of us, but a Christian who tends to exude a little bit more grace without having to manipulate. I just think I think that's a part of being in the church and being in ministry that sometimes is missed. That those things, our upbringings, kind of have an impact on how we perceive verses in Jesus and other people.
Yeah, very much so.
And so I like this idea, because I have felt grace from you for a long time, because I feel like I've had different ideas than you about things, and we still have different ideas about some things.
Yeah.
But I've never felt as though my identity was threatened because your idea was different than mine. And something that Donnie Gordon and I have joked about is that usually you end up being right. I know it sounds stupid, and I know Jamie wouldn't agree with that, but
Check.
I can think of several times where you told the two of us something, and we're like, no, And then after some time passed, we're like, yeah, that's probably closer to where we want to be. And so, I think that's an important part. We're in Fountain now because we took Old Pueblo Road to get here, and we're taking our sweet time.
Which I've never gone that back way.
Oh yeah, that's called Old Pueblo Road.
That is really nice.
Yeah, it takes off there at Fountain, and then it's kind of pretty. The Fountain Creek runs right underneath it, so usually those trees are really thick and really green, and whenever the water's really running, like when it rains up here and up in Springs, it really cruises down there, and it's
really
nice
pretty.
ride.
There's some really nice houses.
Several years ago, I worked up here at Fort Carson at the school district, and in fact, the way we just came, we passed the admin building, and so sometimes when I had to end my day at the admin building, I would just take a different road because I was driving I-25 all the time.
I would get old.
So even if it's just about 8 miles different, it feels neat. This building here is called the Jim Welty Building, and he was the principal of the school I worked at when I first started. Sorry, that's a fire station. This building here, and
the Welty Educational Center.
The Welty Education. Yeah, he was a really, really great guy.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can change the subject. Can I say a couple things about what you just said?
Yeah.
As you were talking, it blows my mind that Jesus, in the Garden of Gethsemane, right, that when he's going to the cross, his friends are asleep, he's praying, he says, God, not my will, but yours be done. There's so many mind-blowing things about that, but to me, it was with what you just said, like the fact that Jesus, the Savior, the Son of God, right? Jesus has to pray, God, not my will, but yours be done. And so if Jesus had to pray that, there's a good chance that our own wills, even under the best of intentions, even when it comes to the gospel and church and whatever, right? That there's a good chance that our own wills will take us in different directions, And so, yes, even the best of intentions and as good of people, whoever, the fact if Jesus has to pray that, then we too just have to recognize, gosh, our own wills and things will take us in a different direction than how God wants to present himself to the world.
We have arrived at one of the finest pizza places that exist.
Dang right.
And I'm going to pull in here. And we still have a trip home because there's a couple more questions. But wherever this one ends, thanks just for the honesty of some of those things. I think one of the things I fear is that pastors just become pastors. They get put on the shelf, and we forget that they probably have different experiences that have shaped them and have helped them, hurt them, but we all have something, and so thanks for saying those things.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll pick it up again later.
Mm-hmm.